Good morning, or maybe not morning, depending on when you're listening to this. Right now, it is the morning as I record this. I am getting this out a day later than I usually do because things have been really busy. We've been redoing a bathroom for my daughter. I feel very lucky to have 2 full bathrooms in our house, and one of them is for our daughter to use. So we've been redoing that. It is very, very pink. I painted it the other day. I do like the color. It is very pink. She's thrilled with it. She got a Disney princess shower curtain, which she's just absolutely obsessed with. So it's been really fun. I'm excited for her. And so a lot of my focus has been on painting that, finishing that up, and here I am now to record today's episode. And before I get into it, I wanted to make sure to tell you that this is going to be the last episode of this year. I am taking the rest of the year off, which makes it, to me, it sounds like that's a really long time, but it's just about a month and a half. So somehow we're almost to a new year. So at some point in January, hopefully more toward the beginning, I will be returning to posting episodes once a week. If you are following me on YouTube, you can search for me on YouTube. If not, I do have quite a few video podcast episodes up on there. Some of them, if you've seen them before, you may have already watched most of them because I haven't uploaded a video for a while. I did recently. But anyway, I do have some videos of episodes up on there if you would like to watch some episodes. I do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/highlysensitivepodcast, where I do have a few bonus clips and a video up on there as well. And if you haven't listened to all of these episodes yet from this podcast, I would highly encourage you to, in this month and a half, go and listen to the ones that you haven't listened to yet, because I promise you will get something out of every single episode. Okay, so now to get into today's episode. This topic was inspired by our recent HSP community meeting that we had last week. Somebody asked, how do you tell people that you're highly sensitive? And I thought this would be a great topic. I don't think it's really been covered at all on the podcast, and it seems like it should be by now. This is a big one. So I wanted to share some tips with you to talk about being highly sensitive with other people. And of course, if it feels more comfortable to not put a label on it, to not say highly sensitive, you don't have to do that. You can just do these tips without using that label. Some people do react sort of weird to that, like, oh, so you think you're more sensitive than me, like when they don't really understand what it means. So just figure it out on a person-to-person basis. Do what feels comfortable for you. But here are some tips. So number 1 is you can describe what high sensitivity is. So you can explain to them that you have a heightened awareness of sensory input, of emotions in your surroundings. So you could say something like, I process things like sounds, lights, and emotions more intensely than other people do. And it's almost like my nervous system is turned up a little bit, so I feel things more deeply. So in a really tiny nutshell, that's what it means to be highly sensitive. So even just the bare minimum explaining things to people can sometimes help them understand where you're coming from and what you need. Something that I think is really helpful for other people, especially people that you're close to, is tip number 2. Share how it specifically affects you. So explain to them how being highly sensitive impacts you personally so they can understand what it means in real terms. So you could tell them, for example, I get easily overwhelmed in crowded or noisy places because I notice every little sound and movement. It can be exhausting for me, so I need time to recharge afterward. So very simply telling them what your experience is like and what you need because of that experience. So that's just one example. I know there are so many that you could explain. So if you feel like you're going to be in a situation where you need to explain something like this to somebody, if you rehearse it or write it down ahead of time, that can be so helpful, because then you already know what you're going to say and it will come across more concise to the person, and it will be more understandable to them if you already know exactly what you're going to say. Tip number 3 is to use analogies to help people understand it better. And this was actually brought up by one of our HSP community members. And by the way, I'll put a link to join the community if you would like. It is now a part of my monthly membership, but I will put a link in the episode description so you can learn more about that and join if you would like. So I think he said that he explains it to people in terms of it's like using surround sound to watch a movie instead of just using like the sound system on your TV, because it is so much more intense. So I really liked that one. And then another one that I found was, think about a radio that's turned up really loud. Everything feels more intense, and you can pick up on details that you might not otherwise, like if it was turned down quieter, and that can be really draining. So use one of those analogies, think of one of your own. Sometimes having more of a visual or having something that the non-HSP person can understand and relate to can be a really helpful way to describe what your experience is like as a highly sensitive person. Tip number 4 is you can explain both the strengths and the challenges. So you can tell the person that high sensitivity has both positive aspects and challenging aspects. You could say something like, being highly sensitive means I can really empathize with people and pick up on things others might miss, but it also means I get tired really easily and I need time to myself to process everything. Tip number 5 is to emphasize that it's not just about emotions. So I think it's pretty common for people to think that being sensitive means just being really emotional. So if you can clarify that it's about processing sensory information deeply, not just emotions, that can help other people understand your experience. So you could say something like, it's not just about feeling emotions deeply. It's more like I experience everything, sights, sound, people's feelings very deeply. It's like my brain processes things on a more intense level. Number 6 is to set gentle boundaries. So if you need support or a specific accommodation, gently communicate what helps you and what you need. So for example, you could say, sometimes I might need a quiet space or a break to recharge, especially after social events. It helps me feel more balanced and able to be fully present when I'm around others. Tip number 7 is reassure them that it's a normal trait. So let them know that high sensitivity is a recognized trait that affects, I don't know what number we're at now, like 25 or 30% of the population, I think, maybe was like the last ballpark number that I saw. So you can tell people being highly sensitive is pretty common and it's just part of my personality. A lot of people experience the world this way, and it's not a flaw, it's just a different way of experiencing life. And the last tip, number 8, is explain how they can support you. So if this is somebody that truly cares about you and wants to know what your experience is like, they probably also want to know what they can do to support you. So give them specific examples. So for example, you could say, if we're in a loud environment, I might need to step out or put on headphones for a bit. Your understanding with things like that really helps me manage my energy. So to wrap up, explaining high sensitivity to people in your life is really about helping that person understand that you experience the world in a more intense way It's okay to set boundaries and to communicate your needs. And it's not only okay, it is necessary for us to do that. And most people will appreciate your honesty and sharing your experience, and then they will want to support you once they understand where you're coming from and what you need. I hope this has been a helpful episode for you, especially if you are around a lot of people for the holidays and maybe you do need to use some of these tips to express your needs and how people can support you. And I also would like to give 5 people a free month of my monthly membership. So inside of this membership, you get access to my masterclass library, meditations library, monthly self-care strategy, journal prompts for self-care and boundary setting, and the HSP community, which includes live monthly meetings. So if you get this free month, then you will be able, if the time works out for you, of course, you will be able to come for free to our live monthly meeting as well, which is, we always have so much fun. We always have great discussions, and I would love to have you there. So like I said, this is for 5 people. The first 5 people that sign up will get this free monthly membership. I will put the details in the episode description, and that is my gift to you for the holidays. So I hope you enjoy. I hope to see you there, and I hope you all have a great holiday season, and I will see you next year.